We live with absolute convenience and personal freedom, yet clinical depression and burnout rates are soaring across the developed world. In the industrial era, labor had physical limits. The factory foreman could only push a worker so hard before the shift ended, and the punch clock enforced a strict boundary on the workday. Today, that boundary is gone. We are frequently told that modern exhaustion is a personal failing, a lack of resilience, poor time management, or a flawed mindset that requires a better morning routine. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han offers a different diagnosis. Burnout serves as the primary operating system of what Han calls the achievement society. Social control no longer relies on physical walls or direct coercion. It operates through a continuous demand to actualize our potential and maximize our output. We have absorbed systemic exploitation into our own minds, disguising coercion as personal growth. Throughout the 20th century, the dominant societal model was immunological. It functioned through negation. Societies identified a hostile other, a biological virus, a geopolitical enemy, an ideological dissident, and built defensive walls to repel it. Today, we operate under a neuronal model. The defining afflictions of this era are clinical depression, ADHD, borderline personality disorder, and burnout syndrome. These conditions originate from an intolerable internal overload rather than an invading pathogen or foreign enemy. Han identifies this condition as an excess of positivity. It is a daily existence stripped of limits, devoid of friction, and lacking the word no. Human defense mechanisms evolved over millennia to fight off external attackers. They are entirely useless when we saturate our own nervous systems with infinite stimuli. To map how this internal saturation took hold, we have to look at the architecture of control. The French philosopher Michel Foucault described the historical standard, the disciplinary society. This system relied on physical confinement. It built rigid walls around prisons, psychiatric asylums, and military barracks to force the body into compliance. Its psychological engine was the modal verb should. It governed human behavior through strict prohibition and the threat of punishment. Han argues this disciplinary model has been replaced by the achievement society. Concrete walls have given way to transparent structures, glass office towers, 24-hour fitness centers, shopping malls, and digital networks. The operating verb has mutated from the restrictive should to the affirmative can. We are driven by the infinite positivity of the slogan, "Yes, we can." This creates a psychological trap. Should had biological limits. A prohibited action ends. Can has no boundaries, forcing the subject into a state of perpetual, impossible performance. The historical class struggle between the owner of production and the exploited worker has collapsed into a single physical entity. You play both roles simultaneously. You are the tyrannical master demanding endless optimization and the exhausted slave striving to achieve it. The absolute freedom to produce is a highly efficient form of exploitation. It is impossible to stage a revolution when the oppressor is inside your own head. This internal optimization marks a shift in governance from biopolitics, managing physical bodies, to psychopolitics, the invisible algorithmic manipulation of the human mind. The symbol of physical control was Jeremy Bentham's panopticon, a prison designed around total isolation and the constant threat of a hidden guard's gaze. The digital panopticon achieves the exact same surveillance without physical walls. It works because the inmates eagerly police themselves. We voluntarily upload our geographic locations, our consumer preferences, and our deepest intimacies directly to the servers. The demand for transparency functions as an economic mandate to convert all human experience into monetizable data. The smartphone functions as an informato, a digital rosary. It is an object of devotion we use to constantly confess our behaviors to the market. The gig economy weaponizes this transparency, stripping away labor protections while masking extreme financial precarity under the rhetoric of being an entrepreneur of the self. The ultimate achievement of neoliberal power is convincing the prisoner to forge their own chains and market them as a personal brand. The demand to constantly produce and confess triggers an epistemological crisis, the destruction of narrative time. We are flooded with information, brief, hysterical data points that expire the moment they appear. This replaces true narration, which requires memory, patience, and the ability to bridge the past and future into a cohesive meaning. Han advocates for a return to the vita contemplativa, illustrating it with the historical Chinese incense clock. This device measured hours through burning scents, treating time as a spatial environment. It allowed the human mind the luxury to linger, incubate thoughts, and experience deep, fertile boredom. We have replaced that lingering duration with hyperattention. Time is shattered into an erratic sequence of isolated digital instants, demanding our constant reaction. We praise digital multitasking as an upgrade, but philosophically, it is a regression. A wild animal must constantly divide its attention, eating while continually scanning for predators and rivals. Operating in this state of perpetual hypervigilance robs us of the capacity for sustained, immersive stillness required for high culture and abstract philosophy. By tethering ourselves to the algorithmic present, we consume massive volumes of sterile information while starving our capacity for profound, lasting experience. This avoidance of depth creates what Han terms the palliative society. It is governed by algophobia, a systemic, pathological dread of experiencing any form of pain or discomfort. Modern politics, romantic relationships, and labor practices are meticulously sanitized. They are stripped of complex friction to ensure nothing slows down consumption. The philosopher Ernst Jünger asserted that a person's relationship to pain dictates exactly who they are. Pain forces reflection and grounds us in reality. When discomfort is medicalized and suppressed, we abandon the pursuit of a meaningful life and settle for mere biological survival, sacrificing human connection just to keep the physical organism running. This phobia of friction manifests visually in the design language of our era, the aesthetics of the smooth. You see it in the highly reflective, immaculate surfaces of Jeff Koons' sculptures. These objects demand only a superficial like. They refuse to evoke awe, terror, or deep intellectual shock. Han contrasts this superficial smoothness with the agony of Eros. Authentic love and genuine creativity require a painful, destabilizing collision with an other, someone whose complexities cannot be swiped away. A culture focused on removing pain and friction exposes everything for immediate consumption, stripping away mystery and substance. Escaping this architecture of burnout requires a shift in how we approach our own autonomy. Standard productivity hacks and mindfulness apps often function as additional metrics for self-optimization, reinforcing the system they claim to mitigate. The philosopher Simone Weil framed deep, uncommodified attention as a form of profound spiritual resistance. Han crystallizes this resistance into the concept of negative potency. It is the majestic, sovereign power not to act. It is the deliberate cultivation of deep boredom, the strength to reject the demand for constant engagement, and the right to remain opaque to the digital panopticon. To survive the suffocating acceleration of the digital inferno, our most heroic act is to ruthlessly reclaim the friction, the silence, and the unmonetized space of our own minds.